Hello, welcome back. This is the Sandbox Social. Let's get started. Hi, welcome back. I'm your host, David Quiroz, and this is the Sandbox Social. We have a great show for you today. This is only episode 2. I want to start off by saying thank you. We've gotten great responses from the first episode, and we are so excited to be back. Today, we are kicking it off with a very special guest, someone that I know personally, that I've worked with, and she does fantastic work for our community. She's going to tell us more about it. Lorena Nunez from the AOK Network. Thanks for being here, Lorena.
Thank you so much, David. Thank you for having me here. I'm excited for this new adventure that you have going on here, and I'm excited to be here.
Thank you so much. It's been great so far. But I want to learn a little bit about you and the work from AOK. So tell us a little bit, how did you get involved in this work? What drew you to this position?
Yeah. Well, I've always wanted to work with families. I've always wanted to work with children. So I started my career kind of focused on that. It really started with early childhood. I was a home visitor and eventually ended up here at the King County Health Department, and this amazing role as the AOK coordinator and early childhood programs manager. And I just want to go back to when I was a home visitor and I was actually doing some outreach for the home visiting program. I remember sitting at a table full of other representatives from different organizations, and there was discussion around connecting a family to, I don't even remember what services, and I remember sitting in that room and thinking, wow, this is beautiful how families are getting connected just by folks sitting at the table. And in that moment, I'm like, I want to be here. I want to be in these spaces. And that was like 8 years ago.
Wow.
So to be here today as you know, serving as an AOK coordinator for King County is like a dream come true, because I love to see that in our community meetings and just in our space, right? Because I'm able to see how organizations are truly working together here in the community.
That's so important. I love that. So let's take a step back. What, for our viewers, what is the AOK Network? What is, what does it stand for? What would you say is the core mission and vision of AOK?
Yeah, so AOK, right? It stands for All Our Kids Early Childhood Network, and we are focused on supporting families and children, right, ages 0 to 5. And our mission really centers on making sure that all our kids are born healthy, that they're staying healthy, and that they're ready to learn when they enter kindergarten. And we've been doing this, right, over the last 25 years here in King County. You know, over the last 5 years, we've really been focusing on building a trauma-informed community and creating an equitable system. So we've been doing a lot of ACEs presentations. So ACEs stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences. So really creating awareness around that topic in many different forms. Using the social determinants of health screening tool, which we've integrated into IRIS, and I'll talk a little bit more about IRIS. And yeah, so we've really been coordinating in King County to make these efforts happen and make them a success.
Yeah. I want to dive into that a little bit. So what does that look like for our viewers? How do you help kind of organize? How do you as a network collaborate with other agencies?
Yeah. So our network currently has about 75 active members, I would say. Of course, you know, not everybody makes it at the same time, but, you know, they're pretty active. And so, you know, we come together, right? And it's not just that we're meeting, right? It's that in these meetings, we're working. And so we're kind of coming around this shared agenda, these shared priorities. And we're working towards taking little steps, right, towards achieving these different initiatives that we've come up together. And so we are supporting one another's goals, right, because every agency has their own goal, right? And so when we come together, we're finding, where do we all fit in to this puzzle, and supporting one another's goals in that way, while also working on the early childhood system.
So important, right? And that, I love that 0 to 5 focus. It's crucial. I mean, the show is based on that, and I think that it's important to have these groups come together, right, and interact. For our families that are watching, right, caregivers, how do you raise awareness about early childhood development? And you've kind of talked about this, resources that are available to them, things that they can tap into.
Yeah. So I think we do this in two ways. One of them is a little pocketbook that we call the AOK Family Resource Guide.
I love it.
Yeah. So that one really has a wide variety of resources. So it's kind of across the board. All sectors are included in this resource guide. And that's important, right? Because we know that families' needs are complex, right? And so it's not just the young ones that need the resources, right? It's the entire family, because we know that if the family has what they need, that gives that child a better chance to really have a thriving early childhood, few early childhood years, and then be ready for kinder. So we have this really cool resource guide book, and it's available via PDF format, or we have the little printed guides, and they're small. They can fit in anyone's purse and anyone's back pocket, and you can always share it. And the second way that we do this is through Iris, right? And so Iris is a web-based referral platform. It is free for organizations that use it, and it is sponsored by the King County Health Department. And this effort started about 5 years ago. We're celebrating 5 years, which is a huge milestone. We just recently, had 10,000 referrals. So that was maybe a few months ago now. So we're over that for sure.
10,000.
Yeah. So that means, that's 10,000 needs that were met. So potentially met, or, connected in some way. So through Iris, right, it's an organization to organization tool. So families may not necessarily have access to this, right? But if you look at that resource guide booklet, there's some organizations that are in purple. Those are organizations that are currently participating in Iris. And so what we want is for families to be able to go to any of these organizations and ask for a need, or ask for a service that maybe that organization doesn't provide, but then they can get connected.
Yes.
So there's no wrong door for a family. So that families can get connected, right? If they are at a food pantry, but they need counseling services, then they can get connected in that way. And so, like I said, Iris is free, and we just want families to be able to get connected, and it's a closed loop referral system. So we're able to see, did the family get connected? Do they need to be referred somewhere else, right? Again, making sure that families do get their needs met.
Yeah. I absolutely love that resource guide, and we will link to that resource guide here for our families that are local in King County. If you haven't already seen it, definitely, you could print it out at home, or you can find it across the community in different community resource fairs. A lot of organizations have it. I love that when you talked about that holistic approach, right? Because it is not just the needs of the child, it's other needs that are occurring, other services that families want. One of the things I heard from our viewers is, I want to know that what I'm going through and my needs are not singular, that other parents who are bringing up children in today's day, which you and I both have young kids, we're going through the same kind of ups and downs, right? So I think that that's very important. And I think that's why I love that resource guide, because it covers a lot of different topics. And I would invite our viewers to do some research and see what kind of resource guides are available for them in their communities, right? Because you might be watching us from another state, and I'm sure there's something similar to it, and if not, right, the power in the people to start something like that, I think is very important. I want to go back to who you interact with as a network. I'd be interested to know who currently you're interacting with as far as agencies and organizations, but then who do you believe is critical to this conversation around early childhood, around 0 to 5? Who needs to be involved in that conversation?
Yeah. Thank you for bringing that back. Currently with the network, right, we have many sectors, right, from health, early childhood, education, social services, mental health. We have housing. And we also have parents, right? They're not an organization, but parent voice is so important. And I think going back to that question of who needs to be involved in this work, and, just thinking again, families have complex needs. And so I think it's everybody's job to be involved in this work, right? And when we're thinking about making these changes, right, in our community, for our families, our community, everybody has a part to play in that, right? And so having parent voice is also very important because, I mean, you and I both know, right? We have children, we know what some of the needs are, but then we need to have more parents, more community parents that are experts at living their life, right? What are your current struggles? We need to have that. Having that qualitative data piece as well.
Yes.
Because we can look at the data, we can look at the numbers, but what is the story behind those numbers?
It's only part of the story,
exactly.
right? Yeah.
So coming together again as a sector, right? Different sectors, and being able to see what role we can play is very important. And you know, it's not just us coming together and seeing, right, because we want children to be ready for kindergarten, right? It's also an investment, right, that we're making. And so we know that, you know, the data shows that there is a return on investment, that early childhood does reduce the cost down the road, or an investment in early childhood does reduce the cost down the road, in education, healthcare, and even in the justice system. So yeah, it's not just a family issue, it's an economic and community issue. So
I love that you highlight those critical partners are really you, the parents, the caregivers out in community, you know, raising young children. The work is driven by, right, what they tell us as organizations, as providers. Let me ask you, in your experience previous to the AOK network, being the coordinator, and now in this role, what do you hear from parents are some of those critical needs, those most pressing early childhood specific needs that they would like to see happen, or changes that they would like to see happen in their community? Yeah.
One of the things that I heard, and that I think I've heard for a long time, is just, you know, we want to be heard. Parents want to be heard. I think that's just one basic need. You know, they want to be at the table. They want to be asked. So again, including parent voice in your boards, in, you know, having an advisory group, that's very important. And I think just reiterating that is important. We also just did our community assessment process, right? And so we looked at, again, that quantitative data, right? Those numbers, but then we also talked to people, and we also got some of that data. And just based on our research and this assessment, you know, we saw that social emotional development benchmarks were not being met. And so we know that families and us, you know, as organizations, we need to do more, right, to bring this information to families. How do we teach our children these social emotional skills, right? And it starts with us, right? It starts with modeling that for our children. And so developmental screening, so not just the developmental screenings, but also what happens after you get a developmental screening. How do you get connected to services? What are these services? And there's a lot of stigma around that too. But there's also just so much more that needs to be, so much more clarity that needs to be brought to this area. I think childcare is a huge issue.
Yes.
Childcare is a huge issue. You know, paying for childcare.
Yes.
You and I both know that too. That's a huge challenge. And, you know, just kind of looking more at the family, right? A little bit more at the parents, right? Higher education for parents, right? Really supporting parents so that they're able to access more education. And in King County, you know, we don't have enough doctors. There's I think it's like over 1,000 people for one provider. And so if anybody wants to come to King County and open up a shop, a practice here, we don't have enough providers. But I think the main issue is, again, childcare. That's a huge one, you know, that social emotional, just building those skills. And actually that brings me back to something that you said, you know, parents want to know that they're not the only ones experiencing you know, whatever it is that
The
we're
good and the bad.
experiencing. Yeah. And I want to point out, you know, parent cafes, if you've never heard of them, I'm sure they're available nationwide. So look them up, or something similar near you. But parent cafes are semi-structured support groups, right? And they are led by parents for parents.
Yes.
And through parent cafes, we learn a lot of skills. There's a lot of skills that, again, have to do with social emotional, you know, how to use concrete supports, meaning like, you know, or not how to use, but like normalizing, right? The use of concrete supports, like, you know, if you need help getting food, things like that. So being able to have a conversation with other parents, being able to share your experience, and then hearing what other people are sharing, it's going to make you feel like, oh yeah, what I'm experiencing is very normal. I'm not alone in this. This is how so-and-so handled it. Maybe I can try that. So it's a great space. I love attending them, and I always leave feeling so empowered. So definitely recommend them.
They are fantastic. I know I've attended some in my professional role, but also as a parent. And like you said, just hearing that, you know, there are challenges in raising young children, and that we're not alone, and that we experience similar things. I want to go back to you saying, you know, we need more medical providers and things like that. Childcare providers, right? I mean, slots and kids, you know, if we want families and caregivers to continue their education and you know, work, and they need somewhere for their children, and there's not enough slots, and there's not enough places for, and this is across the state, I believe, right, for children to be. So something also that we would invite anyone in our community to come out to our community to continue to grow that and expand on access to child care.
I want to add something too. We might go down a rabbit hole. Let's make sure we don't. But, you know, having those supports for the early childhood teachers, right? Mental health supports, right? I mean, and all around supports, right? Ensuring that they have what they need to feel good when they're there with our children, because they're going to be spending the most amount of time with our children. So we want to make sure that they're taken care of too.
Our providers need that as well. And I've heard that, and I hope providers are connected through this show and listening to what we're sharing, because we want to hear from you as well as providers. Your work is critical, is so important. It allows us to do the work that we need to do. And we want to support you, like you said. So I want to kind of shift. I want to bring up our first episode that we had the inaugural secretary for the new Department of Early Childhood here in the state of Illinois. The state is focused currently, you know, there's a focus around early childhood. What are you most excited about for the future of early childhood, not only as a professional, but as a parent as well? Is there anything you're looking forward to, you hope for?
Yeah, I think, well, I'm super excited about this change, right? And I love this shift in early childhood. Again, it goes back to that data, right? That just investing in early childhood is going to be worth it, right? And I think I'm excited to see more organization, right? Because I get to see the different systems, right? And so I think as a parent, even like before being involved and being aware, right, I didn't realize, you know, how everything was kind of separated. And so being able to have more organization and more being more aligned, these different entities being more aligned, is going to make it hopefully way better for families. Not only that, but also there is, again, and I keep referring to this because it's just deep. It's very, you know, connected to my heart. But being able to include that parent voice in what is needed, right? I think that's super important. I think that's something that we need to advocate for. And I think that's something that I just want to make sure stays at the center of this, right? That we are hearing from families about what are their challenges, how do we improve the system, right? Because we can think it's one way, but it might not be. So.
Right. Exactly, through the entire process as this is being brought up. And I think that's something that we talked about in my interview during the first episode. Going to that point, I know that AOK has what they call parent ambassadors, and we've talked about that theme, right? Incorporating parent voice and really building parent leadership as well, so that they can go out and advocate in other spaces. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and what that looks like?
Yeah, so that is an initiative that started about 2.5, 3 years ago with AOK.
Okay.
And so prior to that, right, we always invited parents to be involved in this work, right? But as of 3 years ago, we really wanted to make just an extra effort, right? And we wanted to do this meaningfully. And so parents, so we have eight spots for 8 parent ambassadors to join our network. And so they get to be in the space, be in our AOK network, but also, you know, we meet with them. We are kind of providing training around the early childhood system, around all the different systems, to empower parents, because we know, right, when we empower parents and they have the knowledge and the tools, they can go out and they can advocate as well, not only for themselves, but then they can also share the resources, share the information that they're learning. A lot of the times, right, we just maybe are not aware of the resources, or maybe it's someone new to the community that doesn't know where to, you know, where to go to the food pantry, where to get childcare. And so having a parent that is willing to give you that information, right, is going to be so helpful. And we know that it's different when a professional tells a parent something than when another parent shares that information. It's so much more powerful. If you give me a recommendation, I'm going to take that serious, because David's a parent. David knows what it's like. And David had a good experience. So you know, it just creates this meaningful work. And what we know is that when we again invest in these parents as well, and we train them and we empower them, right, that's going to trickle down in the community. They're going to be connected to many other people and share that knowledge and encourage others to get involved as well.
That's so important. And I hear your passion. I hear, you know, your motivation towards this work. As we wrap up, I do want to highlight, I give you an opportunity to highlight what is the AOK network currently working on locally. What might we see happen over the next couple of months from the work you're doing and you're engaging these other organizations in?
Yes. So like I said, we had just finished our community assessment process, and now we're getting to the fun part. Now we're getting into, you know, really diving into these initiatives. And so right now we're continuing to work with our parent ambassadors, continuing to empower them, providing them with some trainings. And also, again, doing some work around that developmental screening area. So one, we want to kind of establish a baseline of like, what is early intervention? How do people get into early intervention? So to make sure that everyone knows, right, what is currently happening in our community, and then creating more awareness around it for providers, all providers, and then all parents. Again, I mentioned that stigma. And I think, you know, that's something that we heard a lot during our interviews, talking to people, that there is a lot of stigma. And so breaking this down, what is early intervention? What does it mean? How do you have access to this, right? So doing some work around that, social emotional, continuing to provide different presentations, continuing to do parent cafes as well. And we are going to be launching an ASQ online pilot. So again, kind of going back to that developmental screening effort, we're going to be doing a small pilot. ASQ online is essentially, it's the, you know, when you go to the doctor, your child gets screened. They ask you some weird questions that you maybe have never heard before, but it kind of brings this tool digitally, and it gives the opportunity for, let's say, like even providers, like medical providers, right, to send this link, and then a family can fill it out, and then they can discuss, right, because again, going back to not having enough providers, that reduces the time that you get with your provider. So, you know, being able to have those answers to this developmental screening tool ahead of time is going to be important. So we're doing a small pilot, trying to see how it works in our community, and then the hope is to then bring it countywide. So that's one of our big ones as well.
A great tool. I mean, a partnership, right? A partnership between the parent and the provider. That is that screening tool where the parent will give direct input and feedback into what they see at home, them being the ones they spend the most time with, right, with their children. So I think that that's a great. I'm really excited about that initiative here locally. You know, you mentioned awareness and bringing awareness, and I think that that's one of my goals with this show, is to continue to bring awareness to different programs that, again, might be happening here locally where we are, but there might be other versions of this throughout the state, the country, the world. And we want you to look into it, to be informed, because hopefully this is a medium in which you can see the importance of those critical first 5 years, right? 0 to 5. Anything that you like to, I've had such a great time. And anything else you'd like to leave us with before we end the interview?
Yeah, I love talking about this.
Yeah.
So I'm so happy to be here. Yeah, I mean, I would say, just reiterating what you said, right? Look for those resources that are available in your community. And if you're in King County, come talk to us. Yeah. We can get you connected to, whether it's other organizations or resources. That's a part of our work. That's what we love to do. And so, yeah, I think just get connected. That's the most important part in this, I think. Yeah, get connected. I love that. Thank you so much for being here. I had a great time. You're welcome back anytime. I want to hear about the updates as they come along. I really appreciate you being here, Lorena. Thank you, David. Here at the Sandbox Social, we want to make sure we listen and hear from you. I've been doing just that over the past couple of weeks. I've spoken to a lot of parents, caregivers who have watched the show and given me great feedback. I want to share some of the things I've heard with you, and specifically some of the special guests that they would like to hear from. I talked to Vanessa. Vanessa C. says, you should bring music teachers, sports coaches, but not from schools. Also from other programs outside of schools, after school programs, or things that parents can pay for. I think that's great, an original idea that I hadn't thought about. Thank you so much, Vanessa. We're going to keep that in mind. I also talked to Samantha M. She really enjoyed the compilation that we had with the dads talking about why they like to be fathers in our first video. If you haven't watched the first episode, go check that out. She loved to hear about validation, that she's doing the right thing, that all parents are in this together. I think that's such an important theme and one that we want to carry throughout this show. She recommends us bringing in a therapist to talk about the services. There's a therapist she mentioned who runs a mom group once a month, and it's a space for moms to come together, build community. I think that's so important to really learn from one another. She also mentioned probably bringing in a teacher or a director of an in-home childcare program, a director of other institutions that care for children. All these are great ideas. Thank you, Samantha. We're going to be looking into that very soon. I also talked to Nicole. Nicole would like us to try and invite an EI service coordinator or early intervention service coordinator so they can explain what the program is and what the process for referrals to this program is like. She says she knows a lot of people who unfortunately have aged out of being able to receive these services once their children turn 3. Thank you so much for the feedback, for the ideas, and continue to engage with me in conversation through the Facebook page or just through comments. Again, it'll be easy to find me online, so I encourage you to reach out. If not, I will continue to reach out to you because you and I will help build this show together. If you remember, an important segment in the show is to talk about what is happening in your community, as well as to learn what's happening throughout other communities in the state, in the country. I want to highlight some things happening here locally. First off, I'm actually going to go nationally to National Night Out. National Night Out happens every year at the beginning of August, the second Tuesday of August. And it's an effort to enhance the relationship between neighbors, public safety officials, and city officials while focusing on strengthening a true sense of community. I absolutely love National Night Out. I think it is so important. And it does just that. It builds community, gets people out of their homes, talking to their neighbors. We're at a time where this is critical, and to see kids playing, interacting outside with a lot of different activities that are free for families to engage in is just priceless. There's also resources that are available to families that they can learn about, organizations that they can interact with.
I think you should definitely look into attending one of these coming up very soon. Again, August 5th. That's a Tuesday afternoon. And I know the city of Aurora has several of these going on at the same time. If you go on their website, you'll find more details. But again, get to know your neighbor, get to know community partners, get to know public safety officials, elected officials. It's a great event. Hopefully I'll see you at one of these. Another thing that's coming up that I am super excited about, you can't take me away from ice cream. Scoops for Books. This is a great program, and there are similar programs in other communities, but this one specifically is put on by an elected official here in our community, in our city of Aurora. It is super easy to participate. You have to fill out a form saying that you've read 5 books, have it signed by a caretaker, a parent, and then take it to a location to get a free scoop of ice cream. How great does that sound? I know there are programs like this similar with popsicles in the park and other things that happen during the summer. Cool treat in the summer and building literacy skills, encouraging kids to read. Perfect combination if you ask me. So check it out. This one is coming up at the end of July. More information in the flyer. Lastly, I know it's July, but it's coming. August will be here before we know it, and back to school events are kicking off. Some have already even happened. We have a couple of big ones coming up here in the city of Aurora at the beginning of August, and I want to make you aware of them. First off, know that if your child attends a particular school district, you have to enroll in these programs to be able to receive some of the supplies, backpacks, and other resources that they'll be distributing. This is another great opportunity to interact with community organizations, school district staff. Some elected officials might pop into these events. I highly encourage you to get involved. Take advantage of these resources. I know I'll be taking my children to our school district's event happening at the beginning of August. I wonder, do other agencies, organizations hold events like this, getting kids ready for school in your community? Because I know here we have churches, community centers, food pantries who also have similar programs. Again, this is distribution of materials. We want our kids ready for school. We want our kids ready for preschool. We have those little ones who have maybe never been in a school setting before. This is a great introduction. I highly encourage you to attend, do some research, find what's closest to you. Let's go back to school and have a great, successful year. Our next episode will be after school starts, and I want to hear all about how it went. Well, that's all we have for today. Thank you so much to our special guest, Lorena Nunez from AOK All Our Kids Network, for helping us understand what community organizations help support the vision of a strong early childhood system. Thank you for being here. We'll see you next month. Hope you have a great start to your school year. Kids getting ready for school is always exciting to see, and we will connect. Please engage with me through social media, through the Facebook page. We'll have the link available, and see you in a couple of weeks. Have a great rest of your summer. Take care.